night of the fire was awful. That night, it's one of the more difficult things to think about.
We will know the truth. I want to know who's responsible for this accident.
It was the sound. You could hear the people in the tower. That was kind of almost worse than the visuals.
They denied for us the right to be here, to read the statement in a worthy manner. We wrote this statement by our tears, by our feelings, but the Home Office denied for us this right. Yeah, they kept our passport over 5 months, and no one cared about what we were living. Until they gave us recently the visa, but it was we couldn't attend the start of the inquiry, so it was so difficult for us, and we are still living this. We don't know what's up, but we are here to fight for the justice, to know what happened exactly, to protect the right of the family, and to let my sister rest in peace.
It was busy, it wasn't chaotic. I don't think it was ever chaotic. The first day was, I was working on just logging people as they came in and just trying to make sure that they would be put in contact with the people who could get them some housing or some money or some help, some support. The day after that was the hardest day, because that was the day, the people were coming in the day before, the first day, but on the second day they were coming in because they knew that this being very close, that we were among the first. I think we may even have been the first to record who was there and who was still alive and who wasn't. So in the morning we had sort of ad hoc sheets of paper and we were writing names down. And then the word got around that we had these sheets and we put them up on the walls in the sports hall, and then people came through that day. People came through slowly, and we're looking to see had the names been ticked. And the hard bit was obviously when people would come in, they would see the name, they would see the number of the flat, they would see the name of the family, and then they wouldn't see a tick. And what made it difficult was that nobody collapsed in tears because nobody knew. They may have been all right, they just didn't, nobody knew. And then on these walls here, we got the A3 posters and listed the numbers of the flats, the families in them, and ticked them off as they came in, and some were left unticked.
I got called about 4:30 by a church member who'd seen the fire was alight, the tower was alight, and I got here about 4:45, bit before 5. But the church was cordoned off, so I couldn't get to the building. And I don't think I really knew what I was doing anyway. I did not expect to be of much use to anybody, because I had assumed that there would be some kind of proper system. I wasn't expecting to be one of those people having any kind of direct encounter with those most severely affected. But I thought it would still be helpful just to be around and not to get in the way. And it was only about 9:30 or something like that that I was able to get the church open. By which time then other people, seeing the building was open, wanted to bring things and offer things. And a sort of community-led relief effort here then mushroomed.
The great error that was made was for the Prime Minister to promise that people would all be rehoused within 3 weeks, and that led to complete distrust of all numbers and all statistics, and she must have known that that wasn't possible.
It would have been an impossible task to rehouse people within such a short period for two reasons. I mean, one is the availability of housing stock. You know, on that particular night, we lost 3% of our housing stock, you know, over 200 homes. And that wasn't going to be replaced overnight. I think more importantly was the position of the individuals. We're talking about people who had been through the most dreadful experience, you know, bereaved people and survivors. So, and we can see it now, it's very difficult for people having been through those experiences to make decisions as to where they're going to live for the, you know, potentially the rest of their life, and because there was so much trauma, and we're seeing that now.
When I heard the announcement that people would be housed within 3 weeks, I phoned the then leader of the council and asked him, well, I'll simplify what I said. I asked him how could that possibly be achieved, and he said, I don't know, they didn't ask me. They made the announcement without anybody checking it, which I think is an example of government panic. And on that, for that error, that was the government's error, not the council's error.
Although there was a good intention, and I know that there were offers made to everybody, the 300 offers were made within that period of accommodation. Not surprisingly, there was you know, not going to be a large take-up of those housing officers because people just weren't in a position to make that decision. We acquired 307 homes before Christmas and applied the majority of our reserves in order to do that, to ensure that we had the biggest, widest possible choice available for bereaved and survivors to have. In total, over 90% of the survivors and bereaved families of Grenfell Tower have now selected a home. So they know where they're going, and the remaining 10% are a mixture of specialist need. And in fact, we only have 5 people in a hotel who have yet to make a decision to move. And we're often judged on the speed of people moving and the number of homes. You know, politically, people look at the 82 and say, you know, this is only a small number. And that really is a reflection of the trauma that's associated with the people to make these decisions.
3 years ago, the council here came up with some plans to basically demolish the entire council estate that we live on. So the whole community actually got together quite quickly to fight their plans. We were beginning to win. Last April Fool's Day, in fact, the council announced that they'd taken a large chunk of the estate out of their regeneration plans, and then after the fire they terminated everything because with the full glare of the media spotlight on the area they couldn't back up their half-baked plans. A year later the tower is nearly covered up. It'll be down in a couple of years. You know, we're worried that once the tower's down and everyone's forgotten a little bit about the fire and moved on, that they'll come back again and want to knock down our homes. So we have a very strong community here, and if you came and knocked down all the homes, even if you rehome everyone, you're going to scatter the community and change the area forever.
Any changes to our existing social housing would only be done with the consultation and approval of our residents. What we have done is we've done a scoping on all the sites that we have within the borough, not just our own, but also those owned by third parties, to see if we can accelerate our build programme. And that's thrown up some, what I would call infill sites, where they're not large blocks, but you can get blocks of 6 to 10 units on smaller sites. And we've got that programme now under evaluation and design. So I do feel confident we'll be able to accelerate it. But historically it's been very low, and we need to improve on that. One thing that's incredibly important to the council, and it's incredibly important to the bereaved people and the survivors, is a quest for truth and for justice. And that's something we're 100% committed in order to do. You know, we provided thousands and thousands of documents to the inquiry, and we've stated our commitment to ensure that we give the utmost support in doing it. It's incredibly important to a bereaved person and survivor to have that truth, and we will do that. I think as far as the overall, Freedom of Information Act, I mean, we will just continue to give our commitment in order to do that, to ensure people get all the answers they have. In the immediate aftermath of the fire, an FOI request wasn't dealt with in a timely manner, and we got criticised for that. But it was responded to fully, and it was confirmed that all documents had been preserved and were handed over to the inquiry.
A year on, it feels in some ways like nothing's happened. Part of the community is almost frozen in time on the morning of the 14th of June. They haven't been able to move on at all. For other people, people are desperate to move on. You know, people are walking their kids past the memorial every day. The tower is burnt out and now being covered behind me. It's like there's an element where we're all defined by the fire now. You know, obviously the people who came out of the building or didn't come out of the building, the people who've been evacuated. But everyone who lives on this estate can see the tower all day long, every day, from their homes. So is that what's going to define us for the rest of our lives?
It's the fact that there's nothing you can do at the moment about the fact that the tower is still there. I mean, that was one of the hardest things in that first month. That was one of the most awful things, was the fact that people were getting on with things. Some of them were really struggling. And they'd be in here and it'd be okay, we'd have a cup of coffee, we'd talk with them, and then they'd walk out. And then they'd look up and the remains are still in there. The dust, the ashes of their own kids were still up there.
Clearly trust is something that has to be earned. And it has been very difficult, you know, post Grenfell, for understanding. People are extremely angry with what happened. We completely accept that. We also accept that mistakes have been made in the past. And it's important for us to build that trust back brick by addressing things such as the housing.
We are still suffering, to tell you the truth. We are still suffering. This year was full of sorrow, full of grief. We still want to know the truth to what happened to our sister. We have never believed the way she was found. We were asking ourselves how come the husband was survived and my sister not. Every one of us, I mean all the survivors, the bereaved families, they have to sleep well, because I'm sure that all the people are still suffering a lot. This accident changed their lives, and from here I'm always praying for the bereaved families, for the 5 survivors to have a lot of courage, to have a lot of patience. But I'm sure that the truth will come over.
The divide between the rich and the poor, North and South Ken we are, that building there is a new block of flats. There's only 4 in it. Apparently it's exquisitely finished. They're all exquisitely finished, and the cheapest is 2.3 million. We're here next door. That's where the council flats begin.